Today on Locked On Hornets, we'll discuss Charlotte's decision to retain Jordan Surenkamp, and then we'll start a new project. We'll take a look at every jersey number in Charlotte Hornets history and decide who wore it best. You can help us decide that as well. It's all today on Locked On Hornets.
Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. That includes YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, we appreciate you for hopping on with us once again. We did not give you a show yesterday, but it's because we are deciding, you know what? Screw the breaks during the offseason. We're pretty much giving you daily content still. And it's not anything that we've really done in the past. There's going to be a lot of other Locked On hosts out there, which I don't blame them. We've done this before. They're going to be taking their 3 days a week that the podcast network calls for during the offseason because content, it's tough. We all have our magnifying glass. We're looking for it. We're trying to figure out what best suits you and us. But we're going to be giving you content pretty much every single day, whether we go into the past, like this project we're going to embark on soon, or whether we talk about the current Hornets, like we're about to in segment 1 with Jordan Surenkamp being the G League head coach again. But we are going to be bringing you daily content here on Locked On Hornets and everyhornetsboxscore.com, where Doug has started a new substack.
Hey, Walker.
What's up? How you doing, Doug? You doing all right?
I am.
Do you want me to
great?
Do you want me to bring? Do you want me to bring you in sooner? I'm trying to gas you up with your box score.
You do what you want. You're the captain of this ship. Now, when you come on Every Hornets box score, then I'm the captain now.
I know, and I respect that. I sit in my passenger seat and I shut up and let you drive. But this time I'm driving, and I'm going to drive us all the way over to Jordan. Are you getting swiggy with it already? Is that how you're starting the show?
I need to use. You mentioned gas. I need a little gas.
There you go. All right, let's talk about Jordan Surenkamp here, Doug, because he's been, I don't know about a rising name within the organization, but he's been in the news lately because he was the head coach of the Summer League team. He did take over for Nick Friedman as the G League coach after Nick Friedman was kind of vaulted into a more important role, kind of the liaison from G League to NBA back and forth, developing a relationship with some of these young guys. And the Hornets did decide to retain Surenkamp as the G League coach even next year. Mitch Kupchak released a statement saying we're happy to have him a part of the franchise once again. What do you make of this move to retain the G League head coach and the Summer League head coach once again?
Yeah, I think it's not anything that's going to excite Hornets fans, but it's certainly something that I think is important for the franchise to get right because they have a lot of young players on this team, and not all of those young players are going to get an opportunity to play with the big boys in Charlotte. Some of them are going to have to put in time in Greensboro. So you want to make sure that the person heading up that operation, making the calls about who plays, who doesn't, and how they play, is somebody that can handle that. And obviously, the organization feels like Surenkamp is that guy after watching him lead this team in Summer League and watching him lead the Swarm in the previous season as well. They still have confidence in Surenkamp, and I think that confidence is probably warranted. I thought, and you can agree or disagree with me here, Walker, but I thought the Hornets actually overperformed the roster, and Surenkamp overperformed the roster that he was given in Summer League. I mean, they were close to coming out of there with a winning record. And that, I mean, they won their first game in like 2 calendar years. Like, I mean, they did some things this summer. They dusted it up in a way that surprised me. So I think on the whole, it's probably an okay move.
It's ultimately going to be about player development and relationships anyway. It's exactly why we like Nick Friedman. It's not because he had this excellent G League record, but it's because of his development of a 50 pick in Jalen McDaniels. It's because of the development of maybe even a Devontae Graham who got to a second contract and eventually had value enough to get a first-round pick in return via trade. It's these second rounders that ultimately make it and serve time in the G League. Doug, this is a team really in the James Borrego, Mitch Kupchak era that has taken advantage of the G League affiliate. The Greensboro Swarm has absolutely produced at least role players, guys that can come in and help on some type of level to help the Hornets win as many games as they have over the last few seasons. So they take this very seriously. You know, Mitch Kupchak, Borrego did when he was here, but also it kind of starts at the top with the basketball decisions there, Mitch Kupchak. So, yeah, I like this move. I think it's fine. And when I think of some of the video clips that have been released, when you hear him talk, he seems to be somebody that the players like. He seems to have developed those really nice relationships with the young guys. So all good on my end. I like Jordan Surenkamp coming back with the Charlotte Hornets.
Well, and he also has to have a good relationship with Steve Clifford. They will be collaborating, especially in integrating some of these younger players that may be bouncing back and forth depending on injuries or opportunities between Greensboro and Charlotte. And it seems like from the interview that Rod Boone did with Surenkamp that Clifford and he see eye to eye on a lot of things and have had a lot of meetings. And I think one of the more interesting things that Surenkamp mentioned in that article in the Charlotte Observer was that he likes Clifford's clarity on things. It was a choice of words. I think he mentioned
Is that a shot?
A couple of times. I'm not saying it's a shot. I'm just saying he chose that word that he feels like Steve Clifford is somebody that's very clear about what he expects and what he wants. And I think that could be a contrast from the previous era. We know that this team is looking to the head coach now for accountability, and you can't have accountability, Walker, without having some clarity about what you're going to be accountable for. Or if you don't have that clarity, then it's going to lead to conflicts. Because it's like, hey, why are you holding me accountable? Why are you punishing me when you're not even being straight with me about what exactly it is you want me to do on a night-to-night basis? And Surenkamp has said, hey, I appreciate that. I see that. And, Clifford's got a big staff. He's mentioned that. He's got a big old staff right now. A lot of people milling out around this organization. And so you don't want conflict to brew. And you want to try to integrate some of the new people that he's bringing in and some of the people that they're retaining on the player development side. So if he and Surenkamp can develop a great relationship, that's going to be a good start.
You bring up Steve Clifford, and it's why when you go to the Summer League, when you go to their session just this past outing, I wonder how much was affected by Steve Clifford, because we know Steve is going to be clear. I don't think anybody is surprised who has any experience.
And he was there. Yeah. He was there inside. Like, he didn't just pop in for a game and then go, all right, I'm going to go back and do some film study. He was there every single day of Summer League, giving interviews, watching the team closely, watching Surenkamp closely. So that's the thing, Walker. If he was there that whole time and, Surenkamp was doing things that would not warrant him being retained, then I think he wouldn't be retained because Clifford had a close eye on him.
Unless the Hornets wanted to retain no matter what.
Well,
and they want to pay him at the 25th highest G League coach salary in the league. Maybe that's what happened with the Charlotte Hornets.
Is he really? Is that a real stat?
No, but that's just the rumor that they get paid so low compared to all the other NBA franchises. So maybe that happened, but it's not like I'm mad about it. Jordan Surenkamp, the G League coach once again for the Greensboro Swarm, a part of the Charlotte Hornets franchise. Let's continue to talk about the Charlotte Hornets franchise, except go back in a time machine and take a look at some of these jersey numbers coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We start a new project that will be releasing maybe every other show, maybe 3 times a week during the offseason, exploring every jersey number that has been worn by a Hornets player with this franchise and decide who wore it best. Couple of rules we'll get to in the second segment. Stick around and we'll talk to you all about that new project. BetOnline is a proud partner with us here on the Locked On Hornets podcast. It's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball second half of the regular season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, including live betting, esports, even scores, and BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and the easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. You can head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Who wore it best? Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
We need Mitch Kupchak to throw a party like Sam Presti. Can he party like Presti? And Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, but who are you going to get to perform? Because remember, they got Nas.
They did get Nas. Man, who is Mitch Kupchak getting to that party to perform? Can we get Nelly?
No.
Master P.
Yeah,
I hate you right now.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
I can't assume everyone is in the know about that Master P joke from the bump that we just aired, but Master P once donned a Hornets jersey, and we're about to talk about jersey numbers and who wore it best. Do you recall the jersey number that Percy Miller wore for the Charlotte Hornets?
Because that's a jersey I've seen out and about before.
Mm-hmm.
People will wear it. 13?
15.
15.
And I looked, I think Master P has to be the leader in the club. I can't think of a single player for the Hornets
15
that also wore number 14 that would be better. But we'll see. I mean, we're going to go through all these jersey numbers. 14. We'll find out.
You said 14 is what he wore.
15. 15.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yes. 15. No, that one's harder. Well, I thought you said 15 first. I think you might have said 14 the second go around, unless I misheard you.
I think I said 15. This is a good start.
All right. We'll run it back. 15, it's going to be hard, though. Maybe Percy Miller will decide to give it to Master P. The most underrated part about that, though, by the way, that bump coming in is when Nada screams no to your Nelly suggestion. It's something that doesn't get a lot of play, but he screams no when you mention Nelly. All right, Doug, you explain the rules here, because this is something you kind of thought of, and then we workshopped some ideas, but this is your baby. This is something you decided. You have a baby, and this one is another one that you came up with just yesterday, and we talked about it. So why don't you explain some of the rules?
Yeah, I think right now this will be the only other kind of baby that I will add to the family as a little baby segment. And this baby segment is called
We'll take care of
Who Wore It Best. We're going to be looking back over the next few weeks. We're going to put every jersey number in Hornets history under the microscope from number 98 to 00. We're going to be asking the question, who wore it best? And Walker, I'm going to admit that a lot of these, look, the Hornets franchise means a lot to us, but it's not a storied franchise in the same way that the Celtics or the Knicks. I mean, it hasn't been around as long, but also it hasn't featured as many Hall of Fame players as some of these other franchises. So a lot of these jersey numbers are going to be pretty easy to figure out who wore it best. But there are a few that are debatable. And so when we get to those, when either you and I disagree, or we may feel like either we agree but maybe we see some level of disagreement among the fans, we're going to be posting polls on YouTube. So you can head over to youtube.com/Locked On Hornets podcast, subscribe, and click the community tab to vote. And when we get to those numbers, we'll let you know when we're putting a poll up.
So one thing before we get started, too, as we've talked about, when we start the show, when we do the cold open, we will mess up every once in a while. That happens. But then when we start, we usually don't go back and we don't doctor it up. Like, what you get is all of the mistakes, all of the one-time through run if we get it started right. But I did mess up in the cold open, just didn't say the word best right. Instead, I fumbled it and I said bust. Who wore it bust?
Who wore it bust?
Absolutely. I'm so glad we did that, because now when we get to the numbers where there's only one guy that wore that jersey number who isn't a very great basketball player by any measure, at least in the NBA, we can say
he's
who wore
never
it bust.
owned a basketball.
So we don't. So we're gonna ask who wore it bust in those situations, and we'll get to those players later on. We got a lot of numbers to digest. So
a couple of other rules before we get started. Number one, as you and I are discussing this, we can only take into account their time in Charlotte, and also when we're discussing that particular jersey number, only when they wore that jersey number. So if they swapped, then, like LaMelo Ball, for example, when we're talking about him, when we get to number one, we can only talk about LaMelo Ball's time, and in the future, if we do this again, obviously that'll split and we can only talk about his time all right, I'm sorry, swap that. So, in his number two jersey. And then, in the future, we could only talk about him as number one.
Which is, that's going to be interesting, man. We're 96 numbers away from that, so we won't get to that yet. And the other thing is, Master P, right? Like Kemba Walker, he might have to just try to win.
That's who I was. One. I forgot about Kemba Walker. You're right, number 15.
Right. Yeah, but he's going to have to take home the number one jersey because Master P already has number 15. But we'll get to that later on. We'll do that. All right, lead us off, Doug. Who do we have at number 98? I believe you said we'll start with.
Yeah, and I should mention too that if you are watching this on YouTube, you can watch along with us as we go through these numbers because I'm going to put them on the screen now. All right, so we'll start with number 98, winner by default, Arnaldus Kubica. Dun, 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 dun.
44 spots. By 44, 98 is the highest number ever worn by a Charlotte Hornet. And I believe, did Dennis Rodman wear 98? I know he wore a 90 number. I'll look it up.
Well, yeah, you look it up. But I'm going to tell you about Arnaldus Kubica, who is the first winner of this whole project. He wore it best, number 98. He was born in 98. Maybe that is the origin. I have to feel like that's the origin of the number, right? But only played in 2 games last season. 2.5 minutes played. Did get a field goal up. It did not go in. Also got a foul in one of those games. So he averages 0.5 personal fouls. So there you go. Who wore it best? Arnaldus Kubica. Where is Arnaldus? He's not with the team anymore.
No, he's not with the team anymore. I believe he's back overseas. Do we have to go ahead and start with the who wore it bust here with Arnaldus as much as I liked him? No. Okay, well, that's fine. I don't want to hate on anybody.
To me, the word bust indicates that there were lofty expectations. There were no expectations this was draft and stash. This was Euro. This was a kind of thing that you just cross your fingers and hope works out. And he was a preseason hero. He was somebody that came in and grew, became a better player. Especially, I remember him doing some fun things in summer league in the last opportunity that he got. But some players they don't quite have what it takes to get in the big leagues, and they got to go play in Europe for a long time.
I liked him. Honestly.
They're a bust.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get that. I just didn't know what we were doing. I don't know if you
already on the attack, man.
Look, if you play 2 games and throw up 1 shot, I thought maybe that would call for a who wore it bust type of discussion. He was also the guy all sorts of Hornets fans would ask about going into a regular season. Hey, what happened to Arnaldus Kubica? You know what? Is he coming over at all?
His back of the milk carton game for sure.
Because his his rookie season, he comes in summer league, actually has a good game. I think scores, I don't know, double digits, but knocks down shots as a tall guy. People are like, yeah, this is awesome. Maybe he can become something for the Hornets, but ends up not. And at least he's the best player to ever wear 98. He
immediately endeared himself when they did bring him in because we found photos of him wearing the Hornets starter jacket over in Lithuania, as a
kid. As a 5-year-old. Yeah.
Well, when you're born in 98, you were a kid just a few years ago. So yeah, just a couple of years ago, he was wearing the starter jacket. And so, yeah, he's going to, he hit the nostalgia note, unfortunately didn't hit the good enough to make the team note. And now they've moved on. And I think there's a universe where the Hornets don't have multiple first round picks over a couple of years. And, they have a good stable of young players that they really have to get to. They had too many. We haven't even really gotten a great look at Bouknight and Kai Jones, against NBA level competition. And so I think Kubica, if I were to speculate, I would say it was more of a hey, just not a lot of room for you here.
Probably
now he goes to play in Greece.
Probably one of those things where he's been in the organization, I guess, long enough. Because if you were to say, who would you rather have, Kubica or would you rather have Brady Manick? Maybe you would go with Kubica. So, or anybody else.
Manick also, I think Manick also went to go play overseas. So,
he did. Yeah, he's out of the organization immediately. So, anyways, all right, congratulations, Arnaldus. You win the best player to ever wear 98.
Well, we go from number 98, where only one player wore 98, to number 55, where 10 players have worn the number 55 for the Charlotte Hornets. It's the first double-digit jersey number, and you don't get to another one, I think, until the 20s. Yeah, number 21 has 12 players. So this is a deep roster of number 55s. Are you ready for I might use the whole rest of the segment just calling these out. This will definitely be the last one we do in this segment. All right, here we go. Stuart Gray, 1990. Steve Scheffler, 1991. David Wingate, 1993. Wingate or Wingate? I don't know.
I think Wingate, but I guess
Wingate. David Wingate. Derek Hood, 2000. By the way, we are counting Charlotte Bobcats, so get over it, or enjoy if you're fond of going back into Bobcats nostalgia. Speaking of Bobcats nostalgia, Jahidi White, Eric Williams, 2007. Reggie Williams, 2012 to 2013. This is a good Bobcats nostalgia for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Chris Douglas Roberts, CDR, 2014, wore the number 55. Roy Hibbert, 2017. JP Makura, the Arnaldus Kuboka before it was cool to be Kuboka, JP Makura at 2019, number 55. So a lot of names. This might be debatable, honestly.
It could be. So my first thoughts are CDR had one season where maybe there was a stretch within that season he came up big to help the Bobcats in
his only season, 13-14, which was a playoff season. He played 49 games, started 8 of them, averaged 20 minutes, had a 44% field goal percentage on 5 attempts, 38, almost 39% from 3, averaged almost 7 points, an assist, and 2.5 rebounds.
Decent numbers. Those are decent numbers. Yeah. I remember talking about him back in the day. I mean, you're talking about basically 3 attempts per game on 39% shooting from deep.
Bench wrench.
CDR had a nice 49-game stretch for him. But the other guy, go ahead and look at David Wingate, Doug. I mean, that's
okay. Now we can only these are the rules here. We can only look at 1993 because apparently he switched his jersey number because he spent 3 seasons in Charlotte from 1992 to 1995. This would be his first season in Charlotte. 92 to 93, when he averaged 6.1 points per game, and 72 games, started 55, averaged around the same number of minutes as CDR in that season, though he started more games, 53% from the field, 6.1. But Walker, I have to throw some cold water onto this particular one, okay? Because I've been digging it. I've been digging into Hornets history as part of Every Hornets Boxscore, and so I've been reading up on the early years of this team, including this 1992-93 season. And this was something I didn't know, but I was reading this book, Sharpening the Stinger, which was written by the late Rick Bonnell, the beat writer for the Charlotte Observer, and apparently Wingate didn't. So he was played for the Bullets, went into free agency, was expecting a big deal, but had 2 previous charges of violence against women on his record. Now, he did not serve any jail time. I don't think he got a conviction for either of those charges. But Charlotte ends up signing him for the league minimum in 92, 93 because of that. And the organization took a big PR hit because they started the franchise as this franchise that was just good old down south Bible Belt kind of organization. We're going to bring in a bunch of good players, good people, even if they, we're going to, value good people over good players. And then they go and sign David Wingate, who had these 2 charges against him. And a lot of other teams didn't go after him because of these charges. So he wasn't convicted, but obviously there was enough to scare organizations away. There was enough there. So, in light of what's going on with the organization right now, I don't feel like it would be good to award him anything at this point.
You know what? If the biggest consequence that he'll ever have to suffer is us not giving him the best ever Hornet to wear the number 55 for a season, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
CDR, congratulations. You win the tiebreaker. But even the numbers kind of bear that out, Doug. Even if you just wanted to go based off of the basketball reference page, you could say CDR, that little stretch, that 1 year that he had with the Bobcats, we can go ahead and give it to, I think he wore goggles as well, which is awesome. So let's just go ahead and give it to CDR.
Goggles, automatic winner if you wear goggles. Marvin Williams, that's gonna play in his favor. Although he's got some pretty stiff
3 goggles.
He's 3 goggles, but he's number 2, so he's got some pretty stiff competition if you know anything about the Charlotte Hornets.
Tough.
But I do on a serious note, I bring this up because I'm also reading this book by Steven Pinker called Rationality, and in this book he brings up this idea of sometimes it's rational not to know things because when you don't know things, then you don't have to act upon those things. But sometimes it's good to know things, and the fact that I can go back and look at this and find the history about this, I think is important because it also helps you understand how these things were treated. Even though it was a PR hit for the team, it obviously wasn't a big enough PR hit for the team because it was allowed to happen. And so, I just think we just have to understand how this stuff happened in the past and how we deal with it in the future.
No, absolutely. And it's okay not to know those things until you do. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, this happens all the time. And I think that's what people wrestle with in the current construct. Chauncey Billups is an excellent example of this, where people felt kind of ridiculous when they did not know about Chauncey Billups' checkered past, if you will, quote unquote. But then we kind of felt, well, we didn't even know about it. I don't know if that excuses anything, but also it's okay not to know it. It also doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about
but
it.
Once you know it, you got to deal with it. Because if you know something and then you don't deal with it and you don't bring it up, and this is, I think this has more to do with the coverage, the media coverage of this kind of thing in professional sports, is that in the past there was a lot of knowing it and then disregarding it or discarding it or hiding it or not mentioning
100%.
it. And so, I think part of the obligation to protect women and to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't continue to happen into the future with the frequency that it did in the past, part of that is bringing it up. So
okay. There you go. All right. CDR wins it. By the way, another interesting note. It looks like Reggie Williams is the only player to wear this for more than one season. So he's the only guy that has longevity. Number. Yes. Roy Hibbert had a good 10-game stretch at the beginning of his season here with the Hornets, and that was it. Had the Milwaukee Bucks game to start off that season. Those are the only other thoughts that I have on the number 55. So congratulations, CDR. You win the best player ever to wear 55 for the Charlotte Hornets / Bobcats. All right. Let's stop there. We'll continue this journey on to number 54 in just a moment. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Just yet.
Have a few more numbers to get to. We're not going to get to all of them today. Of course not. We got a lot to get through here throughout the history, but we will continue that journey to 54, 53, maybe fit in a few. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
Is Locked On Hornets.
Then I clicked on M. Thomas. I'm like, who the hell is M. Thomas? Matt Thomas is his name.
Oh, NBA legend, Matty Thomas. Matt
he
Thomas, I'm pretty sure Matt Thomas served me at an Applebee's the other day.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Number 54, we go. 4 players here. I guess 54 doesn't have the same ring to it as a 55, and I already see who I'm going to give this award to.
It's Kwame Brown. Oh, no.
Right.
All right, let me read the names.
Yeah.
Let me read the names.
Okay.
Michael Ansley, 1992. Lee Nailon, 2001 to 2002. Kwame Brown, 2011. Jason Maxiel in 2015. I remember Jason Maxiel donning the teal and purple.
If you don't get anything else from this podcast, which I imagine you will a little bit, please go back and watch some YouTube highlights of Jason Maxiel during his days at Cincinnati for some thunderous slams. Jason Maxiel in the post just dunking on people was one of my favorite college players at that time. Then he had a couple of dunks in the NBA too that were pretty nasty, but that guy with the Bearcats was awesome.
For that 15 team, was Maxiel kind of like a less fit Montrezl Harrell? Like a less athletic Montrezl Harrell?
I mean, he wasn't as
right?
I don't think so. I don't think we can give that to him, but that's okay. Had some thunderous dunks. He was fun. But yeah, not tall, by the way, either. If I remember correctly, I remember going into the locker room as an intern and being surprised about how short he was. This is the dude that was dunking on people like that. And he was 6'8". Not the 6'11" that you might think he is. But anyways, enough about Jason Maxiel. He's not going to win this award. Can't give it to Kwame Brown. Maybe
can't give him who wore it bust either, because Kwame Brown was not the Bobcats bust. He was the Wizards bust. It was Michael Jordan's bust that he tried to recover, bringing him onto the Bobcats, and it didn't work out. But it's not the Bobcats bust. So he didn't wear a bust.
With apologies to Michael Ansley, too. One, I don't know who you are, but also you don't win this award as well because...
Hold on. No, we can't do him like that. Michael Antonio Ansley was a small forward, 6'7", 225, born in 1967 in Birmingham, Alabama. He was drafted by the Orlando Magic in the second round. Finished his career with the Charlotte Hornets. 2 games played, 6.5 minutes. 3 points. 3 points and averaged 3 points in 2 games. Not bad.
Yeah.
Coming in. 91-92.
Yeah, all right. Had a couple years with Orlando first to start his career. But Doug, the winner of this award, has to go with somebody we just talked about in the Every Hornets box score episode that we released a few episodes a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's the most, underappreciated Hornet of all time.
Wow.
I said it then. I mean it. It has to go to Mr. Lee, nothing but Nalon. 2001 to 2002. Really, the Hornets were the only team that he contributed for. And I've already done this shtick. Go back to everyhornetsboxscore.com and check it out. But he comes to the Hornets in his second year in the league, I believe, and then not dominates. That's a little extreme. But Lee Nalon has
very extreme.
Yeah, it was. He dominated overseas, and then he comes to the Hornets. But then also plays really well, like his second or third year in the league. Doesn't do anything else with the other NBA teams he plays for. Then he goes back to New Orleans, which, isn't the Charlotte Hornets, but goes back to New Orleans and then is awesome again for them. So just that franchise. But Lee Nalon has to take this home.
Yeah, love Nails. He was a big part of that late early Hornets success in 2001 and 2002. Honestly, if you look back at that 2002 playoff run, this was a Hornets team that knew they were moving. Nobody was going to those games. There wasn't a lot of excitement around the team, obviously, because it was a lame duck team. And they managed to, they got bounced by the Nets in that second round, so they didn't give it much of a fight. But the fact that they even got to the second round, I think, was amazing for that 2002 team. And a lot of that had to do with Nails coming in and giving them a scoring punch, especially missing Jamal Mashburn, who was injured early in those playoffs.
So in a year where nobody was interested, everybody was angry as hell at the Hornets organization because they were about to leave. Jamal Mashburn is out with an injury, so that's just even more reason for the Hornets fans to be checked out. Here comes Lee Nalon, who was previously in Paul Silas's doghouse and couldn't get out of it because he just wasn't trying hard enough. He said, look, either I can go overseas, have to go through the language barrier, which he said was kind of a problem for him being away from home and having to travel all over the place, or I could stay here, put in the work, and actually become a contributor. That's exactly what he does. His second year with the Charlotte Hornets, starts 41 games, shoots 48% from the field, and becomes an offensive player that the Hornets could rely on in Jamal Mashburn's absence.
If you remember, those late teams were not very good on offense. So, you look at 10.8 and you go, that's mid, as the kids say. But 10.8 on a team that was only scoring 95 points on a good night is actually pretty damn good.
Oh, no. And efficient, too. And even, when he got to the free throw line, he was hitting it. I've got all the love in the world for Lee Nalon. Yes, probably a little bit too much, but that's okay. I embrace it. I understand my flaws.
So far, just to recap, our lineup right now of who wore it best is Arnoldus Kulbaka, Chris Douglas Roberts at 55, at 54.
Upset. Didn't expect that.
Lee Nalon. Without knowing who the players are in 52, I'm going to say we've got time to do one more. If you want to,
let's do one more, and then we'll move on. We'll end.
Oh yeah!
Oh yeah! For those 52. Not watching on YouTube, you are missing out on our reaction after what we see. So we click on the arrow down to reveal the list of names to see who wore number 52, and the first name that pops up is Mr. Matt Geiger.
The Geiger player counter, baby.
So it's funny because as much it is automatic, especially for this show. This show is going to embrace him at every turn. And so as much as I gave my love to Lee Nalon, people I probably overstated it during the top 30 Hornets list that I did as soon as I hopped on the podcast 4 years ago. When I made him a part of the top 30 Hornets of all time, people loved Matt Geiger, but then I managed to turn people against him when I put him up way too high on the list, even admittedly, thinking people loved the character and all of that from him. So yes, Matt Geiger, the other guys that were there too.
Well, I'm gonna read them in a moment. I needed to. It's like when you zoom in on Basketball Reference, it just gives you all kinds of issues on the visual. Mm-hmm. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the other names. I'll just read them off here. So okay. Geiger was 96 to 98 in the number 52. Chucky Brown 99 to 2000. Todd Fuller 2000. I think he did it. Wasn't Todd Fuller Indiana guy? Wasn't he? You go to Indiana?
Maybe NC State. I know that.
Oh, NC State.
Yeah. So maybe you're just getting the red and
I'm
white.
getting him confused with Kirk Haston, I think.
I think that's probably right.
No, Todd Fuller was the Charlotte native. He was Charlotte Christian.
Okay. I was about to say.
Golden State Warriors, first round, 11th pick in 96, Todd Fuller.
Todd Fuller, the 11th overall, man. Yeah, who would have thought?
5 seasons in the NBA, 2 with Golden State, 1 with Utah. Then he spent that 4th season, 99 to 2000, in Charlotte, and then finished up.
I think he's coaching
Miami.
Yeah, so I think he's coaching high school basketball now. I don't know.
A lot of these guys. I think Nails is doing the same thing. I think Lee
That's
Nailon
right.
is coaching high school basketball as well. Otis Thorpe in at 2001. At 52.
Fun name. I mean, didn't do anything with Charlotte, but really fun name. I believe was a part of that trade.
Jerseys.
Yeah. He was a part of the trade. I believe this is right. When he went from Houston to Portland in exchange for Clyde Drexler, and Drexler won that second championship with Hakeem Olajuwon, and so they mixed it up a little bit. But Otis Thorpe kind of bouncing around a few times.
You know, dude, would you like, this is just random. This is, I hope people enjoy this kind of thing from this kind of
I'm
episode.
excited. I saw it.
Okay?
So I just want, let me paint the picture for people not watching on YouTube. This is what's great about this. I get to see Doug's face, and I get to see him stumble upon a really nice Easter egg, and then I get excited based off of what his face told me he just came across with the anticipation, and I have no clue what it is. Please tell me, Doug.
Well, it's Otis Thorpe's very first organization coming into the league, and you'll never guess it. I'll give you a chance if you want to try to guess it. I don't think you'll ever guess it. His first, the first team that he played for, Otis Thorpe, in 1984, 1985, and I'll reveal it because I got my screen share back.
The first team he ever played for. I'm gonna go. Is it the?
You got to give me something obscure here because I'm kind of giving it away that you're never.
No,
gonna guess
I know. I'm thinking of Kansas City, and I'm trying to think of what their
Oh my God, you
is that
freaking
right? Yes,
genius!
okay.
Look
I was
at
gonna
that,
say the
Kansas
Kings.
City Kings.
Yeah, there you go.
1984. I'll give you the fanfare for that. Otis Thorpe, his first organization was the 1984-85 Kansas City Kings that would then move to Sacramento. Then his jersey, yeah. Whew, a lot of jerseys here. Kansas City Kings, then Sacramento Kings, Houston Rockets, Portland Trailblazers, Pistons, Grizzlies, Kings, back to the Kings, Wizards, Miami Heat, and then finishing up in Charlotte. Finished his career, retired with the Charlotte Hornets in 2001. Otis Thorpe, but he doesn't win. It's Matt Geiger.
Click on his page if you can.
I will. I feel like
stats.
I don't want to short Matt Geiger, Matthew Allen Geiger. Apparently his nickname was Muldoon. I hope that's not something like dirty or weird.
I don't know what it is, but it sounds
I'll look it up.
Please do.
But Matt Geiger, the guy, I always called him the Geiger counter. That's not one of his listed nicknames, but that's what I remember. Obviously started in Miami, was a weirdly big part of the Philly run that they made with that whole squad. He played 50 games in 98-99 for Philly, but he played 3 seasons for Charlotte and averaged 11 points in his first season.
Pretty much, yeah.
9, generally double digit off the bench, 8 rebounds, 5 rebounds, then almost 7 rebounds in his third season. Block shots, was good for a block shot. Good, efficient scoring. Matt Geiger. I think he's an audit. Now, the funny thing that we always used to do on the show was Matt Geiger facts. I don't want to short these, so I feel like we need to lead the episode, the next episode, tomorrow's episode, when we're going to do more of these jersey numbers. We can lead them with Matt Geiger facts because I don't want to shortchange my guy.
Thank you,
Matt Geiger.
I feel all of that. I was thinking the same exact thing. Me and you, man. We've done this for a little while, and especially when it comes to Matt Geiger, we could not be more on the same page. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every single day. Tomorrow, we'll continue this project. We'll continue to look at some of the jersey numbers, and then on Friday, I believe David Walker is going to join us. We'll do a fun Friday. We'll do it live, but also we'll do Every Hornets Boxscore. So we'll take a look at a game that took place in 2019. So
recent history. Okay.
Yeah. So you current Hornets fans will also, maybe if you just came aboard the last few seasons, you'll also
2019 game. If that's, I think if we'll look at, it might be an 18-19 game. That would be that weird season that Borrego was helming what could have been a playoff team. Kemba Walker was involved, Nick Batum, MKG, a lot of the holdovers along with Devontae Graham. So it could be an interesting walk down recent memory lane.
Very much so. So make sure you check that out on Friday. But tomorrow we'll continue this journey and we'll lead it off with Matt Geiger, Facts of the Day, which you will not want to miss. For your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. Thank you so much. This was a blast. We appreciate you hopping on with us, and have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.